loneliness, silence, anxiety. Too many men are carrying it alone. I'm Jack Starr, powerlifter, personal trainer, aerialist, and ex private investigator, and this is The Other Side of Tough. We're rewriting manhood one conversation at a time. And today I have my special guest, my good friend and personal training client, Quinton Thorn. I've worked with him twice, and for about, I would say, for about 3 years. The first time we worked together, you were working in the entertainment industry as a producer on reality television, and now you've transitioned over to the legal side, law firm work. And yeah, it's, me and you have had these conversations while we've been training about manhood and what it means and that sort of thing. And that's why I wanted to bring you on the podcast, because you have a really unique story, from where you were raised and to where you are now, and, your special circumstances. So why don't we go into that? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, a little bit about your background, and we'll get right into it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on.
Sure.
I'm very, very nervous.
No worries.
I hate public speaking. God, I'm like imagining everyone's like watching this. I'm just like stage
Uh-uh.
fright. But okay, so Quinton, Quinton Thorn, 33 years old. I grew up. I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and grew up between Oklahoma and Bastrop, Texas, which is a very, very, very small church ran conservative town, like an hour outside of Austin. And yeah, it was like kind of going back and forth. There would be like 5 years in Oklahoma, 5 years in Bastrop, 5 years again in Oklahoma, 5 years in Bastrop. Like we just kept moving for whatever reason. And then I moved to Los Angeles in 2016. So it's been 10 years now.
Wow.
And definitely a culture shock for sure, going from to pretty conservative areas to then coming to the great Los Angeles, where definitely still some conservativeness, but nowhere near as much as Oklahoma for sure. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm surviving.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that. Growing up in Oklahoma, you are biracial, and also gay, bisexual too, right?
No, not bisexual. Just
Gender
gay.
fluid.
Yeah, gender fluid.
Okay.
I consider myself to be gender fluid, which for me kind of just means like being able to. I don't know. It's like I feel both feminine and masculine energies, I guess. I don't feel like I'm just like a
Yeah.
cis man, but I also don't necessarily feel like a woman either. Um, so yeah, I'm just like gender fluid, but for all intents purposes, yeah, like I know I present like a cis man, a cis gay man. So, but but yeah, growing up though, in Oklahoma, and Texas even, um, I mean, I think it's your cliche experience of just dealing with lots of homophobia, queerphobia, racism, bigotry, etc. And I think that within my family, like my immediate family, things were fine. I have a uh, hopefully it doesn't take this the wrong way, but my mother, I feel like for her being a white cis woman, also born in Oklahoma, she's pretty progressive, I would say, considering her ness. Um, and so I think in my immediate family, yeah, like there was lots of openness. I have a lesbian aunt who I think kind of helped pave the way for queerness in our family as well. And yeah, so I think like for that it was like fine, but outside of, you know, my family is whenever it was a little bit more difficult, I guess, whether just, you know, your typical bullying in school, um, but even in like my mother, she split from my biological father whenever I was younger, and then she married someone else, my stepfather, and very religious, which is, you know, it's the Bible Belt, so of course everyone is really religious, and but his side of the family was a lot more religious, I would say, than my mom's side and even my biological father's side, and so dealing with that was, um, did I freeze?
No, you're still going.
Oh, okay. Dealing with that was a lot, because you know, obviously, you're told you're going to hell for being queer.
Mm-hmm.
You're told you're, you know, basically you have to marry a woman and you're not going to ever find love and all this fun stuff, if you are gay. And so, growing up, I think I just kind of like was like, well, I guess I have to stay in the closet for the rest of my life, and I have to, um, marry a woman one day when I grow up, and that was pretty annoying. But then obviously, eventually, I came around and was like, oh, okay, it's fine to be gay. It's okay, and I don't have to marry a woman.
So
um,
when do you think you knew that you were gay? Like, what age do you think you knew you were gay, and what age did you come out?
um, I, my whole life, I mean, I always knew I was attracted to boys or men. Um, and I never knew there was like a name for it. I never like gay, like I just was like, this is normal. I didn't think anything of it. And whenever I started to understand what gay was and understanding like this coming out thing that that queer people have to do, I guess, um, I was in second grade. This was whenever I was in living in Texas actually, and I
Okay.
sat my mom down and I was like, "Hey mom, so I'm gay." And she was like, "Do you even know what that is? Do you know what that means?" And I was like, "Yeah, it means I like boys. I'm a boy and I like boy." And there happened to be like some guy randomly bathing on TV, and she just was like, "So you're attracted to that?" And I was like, "Well, no, not that. I like certain there's like certain things like," and that kind of like blew her mind that like, wow, you have a type, like there's like you understand, like, you know. And so yeah, it was just kind of like, well, all right, that's what that is. And then I ended up coming out three more times after that,
Oh
actually, to
wow.
my to my mother, because it was one of those things where it was like I came out and then I was like, okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore. And then I would like be like, oh, well, just kidding, or whatever. But the last time I like officially came out was I was like 20 something, and I had my first boyfriend, and I
Hmm.
was just like, hey mom, so this is who I'm seeing. This is my boyfriend. And she's like, all right, great, proud of you, awesome. And it was just that, and it was just like, okay, let's, you know, let's all act normal here, people. Straight people don't have to do this, so I shouldn't have to do it either. So
How did
yeah.
the religious stepfather react to that?
um by that time, fine.
Okay.
uh but when I was younger, um it was very much so frowned upon. That
Hmm.
was like not, you know, there definitely was attempts to pray the gay away. There, you know, there from like that side of the family.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it wasn't. I remember I was like working at our family business at the time, and a woman wanted to set me up with her son or something like that. I was like 17 or 18,
Uh,
and it that got out, and my step family like lost their shit, just was like, we don't do that, that's not what we're about here, and da 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 and all this stuff. And I remember just thinking like, oh wow, this is going to be the rest of my life. Like I'm never going to be able to like I said before, like love and find someone, and lose my virginity. Like I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
screwed. Like this is it. But yeah, it was really, it was rough. It was pretty difficult.
How did it make you feel like having your whole step family like push against you like that, especially in something that I feel is very vulnerable and personable, personal. And for them to go ahead and, attack you for that, how did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, obviously, I didn't feel great for sure.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know if I ever necessarily felt attacked
Okay.
as much. It was more just like, this is not a safe environment for me to be queer in.
Mm.
Which was just like, okay, I guess I gotta live with this. But I also was like fighting it myself and was in my own delusional mindset of just like, no, no, I'm not, definitely not. And so, and was, because I grew up religious and grew up in the church, and we were non-denominational, Pentecostal, praying in tongues, running around the church, falling out, all that fun stuff. And and so, I was like within myself, like in denial and trying to, like I said, fight it. And so I never felt attacked because it was like I was already suppressing it myself.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. And I mean, I think one thing is it's got to be so hard to live a life and not be authentically yourself, you know, to not be who you are. When do you think that you were able to gain that identity of actual self, of, like finding your authentic self? Did that happen when you came out to Los Angeles or,
No, actually, sorry to cut you off. It happened while I was in Oklahoma. So after we left Texas for the second time and the last time, um, and left, my step family behind, um, I got out of like our little religious cult, basically, so to
Yeah.
speak, and was getting out on my own and had a job that wasn't, I started going to school, I started working, and it wasn't under my family anymore or my step family. And so I started talking to other people and meeting new people, and people started opening my eyes and started, being like, hey, there's more to this world and life and even yourself than just religion and, the Bible and what the Bible has to say and all this stuff. And so, um, it really like kind of, for lack of a better term, woke me up. And then I started understanding more political things and started understanding things about race and gender and uh, queerness in general, all thanks to, just meeting people who themselves weren't necessarily religious. And, um, and so then I started feeling more comfortable within myself and like, okay, well, if everyone else can do it, why can't I do it? And so I was just like, okay, yeah, like I'm finally arriving. And then I think that um, I had visited Los Angeles in 2015 to kind of get a feel to see if I really wanted to live here before I moved. And that was like, I think, the kind of nail in the coffin of who the old Quinton used to be,
Hmm.
and really helped me kind of like break out and like, okay, I'm like, we're hitting reset, and now whoever I will be moving forward we will continuously be building off of this original foundation. And and now here I am,
Yeah.
big and queer.
You're getting bigger too, because
And I'm getting bigger.
yeah, yeah. And
All
you've
thanks
made
to
so much
Jack.
improvement. Yeah, I mean, you've made so much improvement. I remember when you first started training, you were like really thin and skinny, and I think that's referred to in the gay community as a twink. You can correct me
Right.
if I'm
I
wrong.
mean, it's still kind of twinkish. I feel I'm still a little twink because I mean I am still thin, but that's what's
I don't know.
crazy.
You're kind of jacked right now,
Well,
but I think you're
I'm a
moving.
muscle daddy. Am I a
I think
bear
you're moving
finally?
towards that. I think
Ooh.
you're moving towards
No,
that.
well, but that's what's so crazy, Jack, is like I when I look at old photos or videos or whatever of myself, I'm
Hmm.
like, holy shit, like I am like thin now, but seeing how even more thin I was prior is just like, oh wow, like that child was sick. Why didn't
I was.
someone
I remember when you first came in. I'm like, I'm gonna make this guy eat some protein. I was like,
Yeah, you
that's the
did. You were
first
like, you
thing
need it.
is we're gonna make him eat protein.
You were like, you need to eat 3 to 4 times a day, and I was like, I'm going to die. This is crazy. I barely eat once a day.
uh,
But yeah, no, it's been a great journey with you, and yeah, I love seeing the progress. My butt is getting bigger. My abs are finally
nice.
starting to
Yes.
show. I have, things are happening, and I'm like, whoa, this is, and I think, and since in the spirit of masculinity, like you said, that first time I started working out with you, so I was actually I started because I was doing OnlyFans at the
Okay.
time, because TV just was starting to get really bad and it just not working out, and I was like, okay, well, I need something, and so I was like, sure, why not? I'll do this, and but I had felt the pressure from research
Mhm.
of other people's content, of like, oh, I have to look and be a certain way as a gay man if I'm going to, you know, sell myself, if I'm going to be seen as attractive, if I'm going to be seen as, someone that is worth being paid for or whatever for my content. And so I was like, okay, well, I got to do this. So I started working out with you, and then I ended up getting a gig, and then I fell off and was kind of realized within myself, like, I am doing this for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
I'm doing this for other people's approval. I'm doing this, to be more desired in the uh, community. And so yeah, so I had stopped. I think it was like for a year.
Mhm.
I didn't see you, and then um age started knocking at my door, and weight started knocking at my door, and I was like, "Oh, okay, it's real." So I was like, "All right, well, let me like now I feel," and I had stopped OnlyFans. I stopped doing content and all that stuff
Mhm.
because I ended up getting I transitioned to
Law.
the law firm, yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this for Quinton now. I'm ready to do this for like my own. And I had stopped also. I like let go of like this body image of what I wanted,
Mhm.
and was just like, you know what? Let's just see what happens. Let's let go of like, okay, I want this, 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 and this, and let's just see what training and eating and having a better diet could do for me. And I feel a lot better not centering men and centering other people's um, opinions or desires of me, and more so just what Quinton wants. So yeah,
Yeah. And in Los Angeles, especially, around Hollywood, like the body standards are
crazy.
very exaggerated, right?
Yeah,
There's unrealistic body standards that both men and women, straight and gay, have to meet in Los Angeles. Like you think you have it bad in the rest of the country, like here in like Los Angeles, it's like hyper. It's hyper um, focused on
yeah,
your
because you
body
have all
looks being perfect, right?
right. You have all these transplants too that are moving here to, I mean, I'm a transplant, but like so many of us come here with like this dream to make it big or to be, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
reason is. And it's just like this, again, lack of a better term, this cesspool of like people who want to be beautiful and be my dad, he lives in Ohio and he's always asking me what it's like out here. And he's like, there's probably a lot of really beautiful people out there, huh? Everyone's beautiful. I bet everyone's fit and beautiful and blah blah blah. And like, I mean, not everyone, but yeah, like there is a lot of like beautiful people for sure. And then if you're not careful, it can mess up your brain. But I mean, even outside of Los Angeles, if you have access to social media, you are potentially doomed because of all the
Oh yeah, like
bodies and stuff.
and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's always a constant challenge.
yeah,
It is because you're seeing like the top. Your feed is going to like the top 3% of people that are getting the most attention, and yeah,
right.
that becomes the standard, right?
Yeah,
But when you go out into the real world, people are normal. Um,
right.
so yeah, you only see like this top percent, and that becomes the norm for you, the standard that you have to achieve. For a lot of people, it's unrealistic, and a lot of people don't understand too that a lot of these people, they take steroids. They have filters, right? There's editing. There's like AI now. So there's a lot of ways to cheat. And that's one thing that everyone has to understand too, is that everything you see is not necessarily real. And so that shouldn't be your standard. And I really like what you said about, at first you did this physical journey for the approval of others, but now it's becoming a personal journey and you're doing it for yourself. And that's what I want to hear as a trainer, and that's how I started. Like I wanted to look better for other people, and I wanted to uh, be more fit. In
Mhm.
my 40s, I noticed I was getting fat, and I was like, I want to be strong. I want to be good looking for other people. But then as I've aged and as I've been going through this fitness journey for over 5 years, it's really become a personal thing, and it's something that I don't care what other people perceive me as. This time I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah, I want to also preface that like fat is also beautiful. I mean, like it can be, I guess, or I don't know how to like really word that, but like you know, I even for myself, like how I want to come off as or
Mhm.
how I want to feel about my body isn't necessarily how I'm going to feel with others. And I think that within at least the gay community for sure, I think that there's like this standard uh with men or with whatever that like, well, if I'm putting in work on my body, you got to do it too. And I just don't think that that's fair. And I don't think it's just not realistic to me. Because unfortunately, steroids or whatever the reason is, there are some really hot ass guys on the
Mhm.
apps.
Yeah.
And whenever you're on the apps and you see that and you're either overlooked or
Mm.
ridiculed or whatever it may be, like that can also take a toll on a person. But for me, like I'm like I said, this is for me, and I'm like I want to, you know, feel better about my body, but I've outwardly have been attracted to all types of bodies, all types of races, and have been with all types of bodies and races and etc. And so, but I think that like what I would ideally love to see more of is just an acceptance of everyone within the gay community because there is such a intense standard and expectation that's just like unrealistic and it's just icky. It's really, really gross. And I think
Yeah,
that
I have talked like I've had several other gay guests on this show, and one complaint that I hear a lot that it is like Mean Girls. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not like meeting these standards or whatever, it's very like catty and it's very kind of abusive. Um,
yeah,
and it's a thing where it's coming from their own community, and that's
right.
gotta be very disheartening when
Hmm.
that kind of criticism, when you go to a community for acceptance, and now they're putting these other standards on you, and they're not accepting you. Uh,
Right.
because of that, it takes the spirit of what, forming together in the gay community is about, is a place of refuge, and it
Mhm.
doesn't become that way anymore. It becomes high school bullying on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
uh, but
I
you
mean,
made
it's not to
fun.
say too that like, apps are the end all be all because obviously there's a world outside of
Mm,
social media and apps, but um I think though social media aside with the apps, like it's still an access into a real world because you are meeting people and there are people, these are real life people that are behind these screens and stuff. And so I'm only saying that because I know I've talked to some queer men who are like, well, in my community, in my circle, we don't have that and we don't deal with that and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's wonderful. I love that for you. I think that's great. But that doesn't mean that is the majority of the situation.
yeah.
I always say, like, with any and everything, there's your perspective and then there's the reality of the situation.
Right.
And I think that unfortunately the reality of the situation is that yes, there are like these pockets and groups where people are accepted and everything is a-okay, but then there is also another world where it's just like, no, if you're not white, if you're not masculine, if you're not fit, if you're not even, Latin, but don't be too dark if you're Latin, if your dick isn't huge, if your butt isn't huge, all these things, like if this isn't happening, then you are worth nothing. Your worth is so low and it's just it's I don't know what the solution would be to
Hmm.
fix that.
Yeah.
But I hope to God that whatever or to whatever you may believe, I hope that it's something that can be changed at some point. And I mean, I think one of the things that could happen to
Hmm.
change it is people just deconstructing their own insecurities,
Okay.
really digging deeper within themselves of like, why do I feel this way? Why do I have these requirements over people?
Prejudice.
Um, yeah, and because then comes into the conversation. Sorry, I'm going all over the place, but
No.
then comes into the conversation with gay men of like preference versus requirement.
Mm,
Um, we see so often on the apps of men being like, "Well, this is just my preference. This is but then someone that is outside of that preference approaches them, and they're like, "No, sorry, not interested." Okay,
mm,
so then it's not a preference, it's a requirement. Like
yeah.
there's a huge difference and like, do you like that's fine, I guess. Like if that's your requirement, that's your requirement. But I think what happens though is that these requirements are becoming more insidious and vicious where it's like now it's like again like you are seen as less of a human being if you do not meet these requirements. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think if people started deconstructing their own agendas, their own desires, kind of getting out of their own bodies and minds maybe and just like I don't know, I don't know what else, like then hopefully maybe things could change, but until then yeah, it's just like it's a like I said, cesspool. It's a danger zone out there. It's
Yeah.
scaly.
It is. It is. The dating scene is, and even for straight men like me, it's, a jungle out there.
Hmm.
There's a lot to navigate, and I'm sure it's on different levels, but there is. One thing that I wanted to talk about with you specifically too is you kind of brought it up, like being white enough, being, you are half black, half white. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And um, what I wanted to ask, because me being a white cisgender straight man, like I don't deal with those type of challenges that you deal with as a biracial gay man. And who do you think gives you the biggest pushback um, through the, like you present very white, right? Or
I'm white passing. I always call myself Latino catfishing.
right. And so how does that like what when you like go to the black community, let's say, do you get pushback because of that? Do you get like, well, you're not really black because you don't really, or you're not really identified as that? And so, do you get that kind of like pushback?
That is like such a ongoing conversation within biracial light skin, or even just biracial in general, circles of
Yeah.
like the very, it's so stupid, but the like, I'm too black for the white kids and I'm too white for the black kids, and it's just like it's not, that's not real. It just
Okay.
isn't. I For me and my family, because I have three biracial sisters and biracial cousins, whatever, friends, etc. Um, that's just not our experience. The black community is very accepting.
I
I
love.
find they're very accepting. They're very like, oh no, you're black. I mean, you're white, but yeah, you're black. And I think what happens a lot too is that there's this like oppression Olympics with
Mm,
so many different minorities or just different types of people, where it's like, well, I go through this and da 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 da, which is like, okay, sure, you might endure that, which is valid, but I will never, as a, half black, half white, very light skin individual, ever act like I have it either just as bad or worse than my dark skin brethren and sisterin, like, because that's just not real. It's just that it's not a thing. Because of the way I pass or whatever, I've been able to get into spaces and into whatever areas that other people are not able to because they're darker skin. Now, do I still, even when I'm in those spaces, deal with some BS? Yeah, absolutely.
mm-hmm.
But it's nowhere near the level that darker skin people are having to endure. And to be honest, I and my sister and I, we talk about this often. I
Okay.
find I find the people who, or the groups of people who try to uh, it
Stigmatized.
sounds very like woe is me, but like discredit our blackness, I
Mm,
guess, is usually like the Latin community and the white communities.
okay.
And I think that's partially because they maybe want to see us as not black. I don't know what it is. I remember I was dating a black man, actually. I'm not a black sorry. I was dating a Latin man who was just like, I don't see you as black. You're not, like, you are not black to me, which is like fair to an extent, because like, well, yeah, I'm like so pale. I get it, but it felt weird to me, and it felt gross to me, because it was like, you know, I find that what happens a lot, because light skins are fetishized
mm,
um, by others, is that I think a lot of people want a black person or a Latin person without actually having it. And so they're like, ooh, a biracial person where I can have my cake and eat it too, but I don't have to have, the actual whatever on it. And so I think that's a thing. And I try to stay clear from that. But sorry, I'm rambling. But no, like it's not. I don't feel pushback from the black community by any means. I feel pushback from everyone else,
okay.
to be perfectly honest with you.
That's
But that's just me. That's
yeah.
just me.
No,
That's
and that's
my
completely fair, and that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Because it is a dynamic that you have to face.
Hmm.
Now, continuing on with the question of race, do you think you faced more racism in Oklahoma, Texas, or do you think you face the same amount of racism or more in Los Angeles?
Mm,
If I may elaborate, so one thing that, and this is just my theory, and like,
yeah,
of course, white cis male, I don't
let's
have
hear it.
experience, right? But I do see it. Is that in Los Angeles? Like, because I've come from like a very conservative area too. I've lived all around the Midwest, And you see more on the face racism in those communities, but in Los Angeles, there's a lot of soft racism.
Yeah,
It's
that
kind of like very, I don't want to say polite racism, but
yeah.
it's a
It's just
racism
subtle.
that's not straightforward, right? But
Yeah.
it's from the same vein and it's from the same root. Do you notice that?
Yeah, there's a word for subtle racism, and I can't remember what is it called?
Like I almost want to call it polite racism because it can pass. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, it's like
pass the
passive aggressive
distinct.
stuff and oh God, sorry, my brain is fried, but I can't there's an actual word for that and I can't remember what it is because
Hmm.
I'm put on the spot now. But yeah, no, I mean in
And I think like
Oklahoma,
of that soft racism is what your Latino boyfriend told you is that like I don't see you as black, and it's like, well, that's my
y-
identity.
yeah,
So you're telling me
I
that I can't be my identity, you know?
yeah, I think that yes, absolutely. Like I think that in Oklahoma and Texas, it's way more in your face. I mean, Tulsa had the Tulsa Race
Yeah,
Massacre in 1920 something.
they
And in
bombed
my
it.
opinion,
Yeah,
huh?
they bombed that city.
Destroyed it, completely
Yeah.
destroyed it, and you feel it. I personally feel like me and one of my friends actually, she's black. We were talking about that how we go to certain cities or states and cities, whatever, and you like feel the racism. You
The
can feel, huh?
feel the history.
You feel the history. You
Yeah.
feel the like, oh, this is heavy. And for me, that's being in Oklahoma. Like it's like it's drenched in it. You can feel the devastation and like the sorrow and Tulsa is very segregated. You've got poor people and black people pushed to the north. You've got I think like the Latin and Asian communities in the east. You've got the more wealthier people and white people in the south, and then you've got reservations and native people, indigenous people in the west. Like it's incredibly segregated, and you feel that. And then yeah, moving here, there was a I came here thinking like, oh, everyone's gonna be cool and chill, and it's gonna be a okay, and like I'll never have to deal with that again. I'll blend in. And to an extent, yeah, I do. I definitely blend in, especially since I'm, like I said, Latino catfishing, Latino fishing. I do blend in, but it's amazing the like passive aggressive comments and just the
Mm.
subtle stuff that you, yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's, it's very quiet, but it's so loud whenever you do hear it. Um, and that was disappointing, I will say. That was very, jarring of like, oh. And even I remember I worked at a job where I wore culottes and I wore a shirt that was like semi-sheer, but I had a tank top underneath it so you couldn't see anything. And it wasn't like, oh, this is like scandalous by any means. It really truly was not scandalous. But I remember like being told you need to dress more like a man. You need to
Mm.
dress more like a straight man. That's not acceptable. And I
Wow.
remember being like, what? Like, where am I? Like, am I back in Oklahoma? This is crazy. And just like the fear that, so many people, apparently gay and not, or queer and not queer, people have over femininity, is insane, just crazy. And so, yeah, I was very devastated when I came here and like experienced a lot of that. Even like this is a very hot take, but even just like Latin people who still say the N word and
Mm.
think they have a right to that because they grew up around black people or didn't grow up around black people. They grew up in the hood, they grew up da da da, whatever. And they think that they have this like ownership over that word. Like, even that is like jarring too. And it's just, yeah, there's so much here that's like, wow, Los Angeles, y'all don't have it together as much as I thought you were going to.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely prevalent in the entertainment industry. I started off acting when I came out to Los Angeles. And I remember like doing plays or auditions or whatever, and it was always like the black actor, you know, they had to be as tough as possible, right? As macho as possible, as threatening as possible, aggressive. And, you know, I remember
Yeah.
like seeing all of this, and then like, you know, like then I would see the actor like have to like portray this, but then I would like talk to them and they're very like gentle, you know, like kind people. And I was almost like, you know, I almost would be better at this role because like I'm a little ragey and I am a little aggressive, and this guy is a very like
Well,
calm,
and that's what's
like
crazy, Jack.
and
That see,
it
well, now you're gonna get me into that whole thing because,
yeah,
like, yeah, black and
and it's
brown
I think
people.
very unfair how the Hollywood industry like only portrays like it really is, they push it that black people, you know, are like the aggressors, the, you know, and it's
Yeah,
been a stigma in Hollywood forever, and it's continuing to this day, even with all the virtue signaling that, you know, these Hollywood studios do, and like incorporating, you know, more people of color into movies and television.
hmm
Stigma has not stopped. I still,
no, and it's true.
Dave
The black
Hill
and
did a skit on it, which was like really funny. Like, he was like some actor from like, he like trained in like London or whatever, and then there's this other like ghetto black actor, right? Like, and he was just like from the streets. And so like they gave the guy that was like classically trained, like trying to portray him as like this thug and stuff like that. And it really brings up the dynamic of like the subtle racism that you see in the entertainment industry. And since, you know, you worked in that.
even the loud racism as
Mm-hmm.
well. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, yes, I worked in TV, but it was reality television, and I think what I more so experienced a lot of working in reality television is more like the demonizing of black people, and especially the demonizing of black women. You know, I worked on a certain show
Mm-hmm.
where black women were getting married and they wanted to get their hair done, and I remember execs like clowning black women for wanting their hair done, or you know, wanting their hair done and then wanting a different hairstyle for their honeymoons, which is like completely acceptable and so reasonable, but like they would be treated so poorly. And they would, you know, I remember there was a white woman who would call a black woman a man and stuff, like that she
Mm-hmm.
looked like a man, like there. And that also goes to like what you were saying about black and brown people being like having to be, or being portrayed as like masculine and aggressive and stuff, you know. Meanwhile, you know, there's so much to unpack there. Historically, I think we can all agree who the aggressors have been and who have committed so many atrocities and devastations and have been violent. Um, White people, in case anyone watching doesn't
Mm-hmm.
understand. And now what gets me is whenever black and brown people want to push against that, now they're painted as aggressive and, you know, monsters and all this stuff because they're fed up and they don't want to do it anymore. I know that's something like even my light skin ass experiences and
Mm-hmm.
has experienced with white women is
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I put my foot down, as soon as I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna accept this treatment anymore, I'm painted as, you know, toxic, awful, terrible, etc. And yeah, and it's just that's like across the board in general. I feel like for black and brown peoples is they're consistently painted as violent. But because this is a podcast about masculinity, I want to get a little bit deeper into that too, though,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about masculinity within the black and brown communities,
Oh,
because I think that what is seen a lot and what happens a lot too is that you see black women being put on the being given the short end of the stick because they're painted as aggressive or too manly or whatever stereotype or racist prejudice, etc. And then you see black and brown men flocking to white women who are, or just non-black women in general, who are painted as like gentle and soft and, you know, all this stuff. And and I think that's like another toxic masculinity thing that comes up, where it's like, you know, women, black and brown women have to consistently like step up to the plate so many times and are consistently having to make ends meet and all this stuff, and then yet they get painted as like these aggressive people, which, you know, like Solange Knowles says, you got a lot to be mad about. Like, I think that black people across the board, but especially black women, have every right in the world to be angry if they're angry, to be upset if they're upset. You know, I mean, so many black women unfortunately have to like swallow that those feelings, their feelings, because they're consistently painted as like unstable or the angry black woman, or whatever, and they're not even allowed to like feel and like kick and cry and hurt and be in pain, because it's like they're demonized for that. And I think that a lot of that unfortunately stems from 100% white supremacy,
Yeah.
but there's like I use that as an umbrella term, because then underneath that is like the toxic masculinity of like men wanting like, you know, soft, gentle women or whatever, but then, you know, are mad at women whenever women have to step up to the plate and be the providers and be the man of the household and all this, you know, stuff. And I think that that's like, I remember I was talking to this Latin woman, my
Hmm.
friend, and she was talking about how one of the things that she endured with her baby daddy is that he consistently left things for her to do and fix, whether it was like stuff around the house, or, you know, the kids, or fixing the car, like whatever, getting things done. And she was just like, I feel like consistently I'm having to step up to the plate, and there isn't an equality here in our relationship, you know. And she's like, I'm not asking for you as the man to like, you got to do everything and you got to be the provider. I'm just asking for like, can we not be on the same level here? Like, can we not both give 100%? And I
Or
think talking to like a lot of my lady friends, that is a consistent thing that also comes up, is just like, you know, wanting men to step up. Um,
so yeah, let's
and
talk about that. Because you know, this is one question that I always ask during the podcast is, you know, is there a crisis in masculinity, and what can we do, you know, as men? Because like I'm asking this question because I want to know, like, what can we do to, you know, change this area of men? Because I think
yeah,
crisis. I mean, do you think we're in, like,
I well, I know one of your questions is or has been the
mm,
male loneliness epidemic. Is
that,
that a thing?
mm,
And I hot take, but like I think men are definitely lonely. I think men are lonely. I think men have uh their issues. They have the things that they're going through. 110%. I will never take that away from men.
mm,
I will, however, say that I don't think it's a crisis or an
mm.
epidemic within men. I think it's a crisis and epidemic outside of men. And I say that because I think that with how
Communities? Is that what you're saying? The male loneliness epidemic
I think
is
it's affecting other people
the other people.
outside of
Mm,
just men, because
yeah,
I think how men are allowing these feelings and these, you know, devastations to manifest within ourselves as
yeah,
men is is coming out and affecting so many other people, because we're not doing the work that we need to do to get a hold of ourselves and like
yeah.
and better ourselves. And so I think, you know, men, you've got all the stories about murder and rape and rage and etc., and like all this stuff that happens, and how that trickles down to
Domestic
even
violence. Yeah.
right, and how that even trickles down into the gay community,
Mm-hmm.
and how masculinity shows up within the gay and the queer community, and how like um that that also comes out in rage and abuse and rape and murder and etc., and all this stuff. And so it's like, yes, this is a crisis, but it's more so like a crisis, I think, for everyone else who's having to like deal
Deal
with
with that.
the, yeah.
These
And
that are broken. Yeah.
yeah, and so, and I think for me, like,
System's filled with them.
say that one more time, I'm sorry.
I said the prison system is filled with them.
Right, absolutely. And I think that a big part of what men are going through is not the fault of women. It's not the fault of queer people. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's men not holding themselves and each other accountable and stepping up to the plate to do better. And I also think that, and I'll play devil's advocate for men here a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. I think that yes, like there are like men and women equally both can be very awful human
Okay.
beings. Like they're, women are not perfect, men are not perfect, no one is perfect. And I
Yeah.
think though, another hot take historically though, I think the reason women tend to operate the way that they do stems from something that happened to them because of a man. I think that historically, I think James said it on the panel of like, historically women have gone through so much BS, and now men are like facing a little bit of that, and they can't take it. They're like falling into shambles. And I think that um it's not to say that that's an excuse for women to treat others, whether it's other women or men, that way. Like I'm not condoning that whatsoever, but I can't act ignorant and not, say where that, I mean, for me, like I have dealt with a lot of really hateful men in my life,
Mm-hmm.
family wise and even outside of family. But I find consistently what I end up having to fight up against are white women.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's like because of, hatred of men, racism, queer phobia, whatever it is, you know, I take that and I'm like, okay, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's because you were hurt by some man or something happened with a man or whatever. And so I think we can't ignore that. And I think like that's just like a real thing. But sorry, I got sidetracked. I think playing devil's advocate for men even further, I think a big issue too is capitalism. And I think that I don't see or hear very many people talk about that because
Before we get into that, I just want to reply to what you just said.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Like this is one thing that that I've dealt with personally as a man,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a cultural thing. So us as men,
Mm-hmm.
right? When we're born, when we're raised, we are taught that the one thing that we have as a power, right, as
Yeah,
a power that makes us powerful is our anger,
yeah.
right? And so explosive, so we learn to be explosive. We learn to be angry because anger is the way that we can stand up for ourselves. It's what men do, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
what we're taught. It's what we're shown. It's what we're given by, that's what masculinity is. And that's the power of men is anger.
Yeah.
Um, but in reality, it's not. The real power of men is being protectors, is being calm in chaos, is being calm in a storm. Uh, People gravitate to men who, when everything's going to shit and everything's chaotic and everything should be tearing them down, you have a man sitting there and being strong and stable and being supportive with everyone else. And that's the true strength in men. And that's something we're not taught. Instead, we're
Mm-hmm.
taught anger, and that's
Mm-hmm.
masculinity, whether it's in music, whether it's in sports, whether it's in entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
it's the anger, it's the violence, it's our potential of violence that we think is the real power. But the real power is being able to hold that violence back and use it when it's needed to protect.
I
Uh,
think it's also domination. I think men are taught by the fathers and the mothers and society that you are to dominate, and by religion as well, that
mhm,
you are to dominate over any and everything, and
yeah,
that it's not a partnership, it's not a equal, it's a the man is the head and that's the end to it. You listen to the man leads, and point blank period, nothing else. And I just, for me personally, I think that's so just incredibly old school. And it's like, I think women are just as capable as men are.
but I think
And
I think there is some nobility in men taking leadership, uh,
absolutely.
but it's not from a point of there's this old like cartoon meme, right? Where this guy is on top of like a big brick, right? And it's being moved by several other people, and he's
Yes, I
with,
know the meme.
right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
an example of poor leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Real leadership is the man being right there, being pulling right with him, being an example.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with men in general in this culture is only 1 in 4 men. I found this statistic out. Only 1 in 4 men have grown up with a father,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're not given these good examples of protection of things. Instead, we're giving an amalgamation of social media, of
But even I grew up with a dad, a stepfather,
mhm,
and I mean, I know plenty of people who have grown up with fathers and still, like, was not taught or raised, to be a decent human being, for lack of a better term. I think that I understand what you're saying, and I do agree for
mhm,
sure. I just think that uh there's more to it than just like a man being present,
mhm.
and a man being a leader. There's, as you were saying before, there's the vulnerability, there's being open to critique, being emotional, being soft whenever you need to be soft and gentle and all of that. And I think that is like a lost
It is
art. It's lost, and it's not seen so much anymore. And I think that
extremism is celebrated and gets clicks and gets attention. That's why. Peace is not like right. Peace is just something that we pass by. But
right.
I feel as a man, you should be a source of peace, and that's
Yeah.
because you're so strong that you can provide protection and security to like others, and that's
Well,
the role of
I
positive masculinity, right? And it's something that
yes.
men have that's very unique, is to be able to have that strength and protection, just like women have the unique ability to nurture, right?
But see, here's the thing though, Jack. Like, how many times have I seen, and how many times have so many of us have seen, where women are painted as like unstable because of their emotions and not strong and not, able to blah, 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 whatever. Yet in the past, I don't know, 20, 30, maybe 40 years, women have been put in the position where
Yeah,
they have to be the man of the house, the father figure,
yeah,
and because the man is, you
gone,
know, the gone,
mentally gone too. Yeah, I'm
or
not talking about
emotionally
physically
gone.
gone. I'm talking about mentally gone.
Right.
Right?
Like, how often is it that men actually, crack under the pressure, and then the women are having to, like, okay, let me pull your, like, let me, and I think that to me speaks volumes of, like, I think that both men and women have masculine and feminine energies,
Mhm.
and are both able to be providers, both able to be protectors, both able to be nurturers. Like I think we get so lost in like, you're a man, so this is your duty. You're a woman, this is your duty, and y'all just stick to it. And if
Yeah.
you stick to it and if you do it really well and you do it the right way, everything will be fine and everything will be healed. But I think that's like where a lot of destruction and confusion is happening, is that there needs to be, I'm all about the balance. And maybe it's because I'm a queer person, but I'm all about the balance of like, look, we both can do this. You both are capable. You're both able to do it. I think, yeah, sure. If one person isn't able to provide something, then the other one is able to do it for them, or whatever that trait may be. However, I think that historically we have seen, women work so well under pressure and are able to run things very smoothly
Most.
whenever given the opportunity. And I think that, you know, there's just men and women just got to meet each other at the same, levels and be on the same page, and then I think things can start to change and get better. On top of, yes, like therapy is important, but it is not the end all be all.
Hmm.
I think there's still so much, because I've met plenty of people who are in therapy who are still awful people, and it's like, what are you
Yeah.
doing then? There's so
Well,
much more
the
work you have to do, and
therapy is the same thing as personal training. And I was
yeah,
with my therapist the other day, and we were in the office, and I was like, you know what? Like, you and I have a lot of similarities in our profession, right? Because Chat GPT could give you, for like personal training, they could give you a program, they could tell you what to eat, they can tell you how much, do this. And if, as a therapy, like, I could go on Chat GPT and diagnose my problem and be like, oh, I got to take this step. But it's accountability. It's
yeah,
going and being accountable to someone that really makes it. And so it's putting in the work. Like, if you hire me as a personal trainer and you don't do dick all and you just fuck around, right, for like the hour that I give you, and you make no results, it's like, you're wasting money because you're not putting in the work. And that's the same with therapy. And some people weaponize therapy, right? Especially narcissists.
yeah,
And they will use the therapy talk, and they will use the therapy uh, jargon and that sort of thing
mm-hmm.
to justify their, let's just be blunt, shitty behavior,
Right,
or narcissistic behavior.
right,
But yeah, it's doing the work, you know.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're saying with men and women too, is that men and women have to do the work. Like, they really have to do the work on behalf of, like, men, on behalf of raising better men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the problem,
Because honestly, in my research and experience, like at the
yeah,
end of the day, everyone just wants to be loved.
yeah,
Everyone wants to be accepted. Everyone wants to
respect.
feel
I think
respect.
for, like,
And
at least men in my circle, like, the big thing is respect. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about straight men, right? I'm not, like, going in, but it doesn't matter how beautiful the woman is. Once that respect is gone, the man is out. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
And I think that is one thing, is that there's not a lot of respect left in how we communicate with each other and how we treat
Right.
each
Because
other.
even vice versa, a woman,
Yeah.
as soon as she feels disrespected by a man, she's like, "All right, peace out."
Yeah.
And I think that
Good.
what my point was, though, is just like, I think that if we, and not to be all woo woo whatever, but like hippie, but
Yeah.
there needs to be more love. There needs to be more acceptance. There needs to be more understanding, more respect, more care. Yes, there's like, that's not end all be all. Like, there's so much more that needs to be happen, or that needs to be happening. But I think that even like the incels, right?
Mhm.
The I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, so I won't say names, but like, we see these people and who have streamer success and
Yeah.
podcast success, YouTube success, whatever, who
Mhm.
are just like
Talk.
advocating all this toxic masculinity and this like, women ain't this and queer people ain't this and men got to stick together, blah blah blah. At the end
And
of the
that's
day,
that's
like,
exact reason I made this podcast, by the way.
Right, which is why I was like, sure, I will do this with you. Because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, when you told me you wanted to combat what we're seeing right now with all of these god awful people,
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, yes, I like absolutely I love that. But anyways, I think that even those people though, these incels and everything, everyone just wants love.
Yeah.
Everyone is hurting, everyone is in pain, and I won't, I'm not condoning what they're saying, I'm not condoning what they're doing because like y'all still need to be dealt with for sure, but I know that this has to be coming from a place of, you were not given something as a
Yeah.
child that has
Yeah.
messed you up. You weren't given something in your teenage years, your adult years, whatever. And
Yeah.
people are just like, you know,
It's
they're
I'll
lashing
tell you
out
exactly
and
what it is because I went through this stage, right? I went through
mm-hmm.
the embittered stage,
Yeah.
right? And it's feeling powerless. It's feeling
Right.
helpless as a man. It's feeling castrated as a man. And when that happens, when you feel like your use as a man is, like nothing, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
value, then you walk away and you're embittered.
Mm-hmm.
Or lesser people are, right?
Right.
And it's not the what they don't realize, right, in that feeling is that it's not the other people that are making them feel that way. The other
Right.
people are mirrors and they're
Mm-hmm.
reflecting something deep inside of themselves
Mm-hmm.
that they need to take care of. And if
Yeah.
they take care of that and someone like some woman or whatever went ahead and said something hurtful to them, it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't land. It
Right.
would just be like, okay, I'm taking my energy elsewhere.
Yeah.
Bye. I don't need
Right.
that low negative stuff, but it's going to hit you hard if there's some truth to it, right? If there's there's going to be a wound to it. You're opening
Mm-hmm.
up a wound when you do that. And so I think that, you said that, not everyone needs therapy.
No, 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 no. I'm not saying
I'm like saying like,
no, no,
therapy
no.
is the all end all.
I'm
But
not saying not everyone needs therapy. I think that
general,
therapy is
general.
great. Therapy is helpful. I just think that if you're going to do therapy, you need to be doing more than just therapy.
Mm-mm.
Because again, like I've said, like I've met people who are in therapy and they're still awful people because,
Yeah.
they might be doing the work in therapy sessions, but then you leave and, are you applying it? You know, are
You know
you
what?
giving back or
We were talking about fundamentalists like churches and stuff. I
uh-huh.
used to go to church a lot, and I used to remember I'd go to church and I'd feel like all this community and love and all of this from these people, right? And then
Mhm.
go out in the real world, and you would see them, and you would see them do the most awful things.
Yeah.
Like right when they left that church door, the holiness went ahead and just fucking the Holy Spirit left their body and
Right.
hopped right back in. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? And then so
Yes,
it
I do. I
does nothing
do.
does nothing for them.
I remember being growing up in church and that was a joke that the pastors would make all the time of
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, y'all are all holy here and then you leave and then you lose yourselves and then you come back and you want to be redeemed and all this stuff and yeah, I think yeah, same thing applies with like the therapy or
Mm-hmm.
working out or have doing the yogas, having meditation, having your all of these things are wonderful, fantastic, great things that can definitely help a person, but if that's like if you're just stopping there, then what's the point? What like this is useless. This is so useless then because you're not actually doing anything with it. So, but no, I'm not anti-therapy. I want to do
Yeah.
I
No,
don't want I don't want
like I was just saying that I think that all men uh, could benefit from therapy,
Yeah.
especially in what we're going through in times now. We have the worst example of men running the country right now, and the
Mhm.
worst example of men doing things in our world, destroying it right now. And people need that professional introspection, that shadow work, as Young calls it, to stay grounded and to stay strong,
Yeah.
to keep their identity through all these distractions and these things that can really warp your sense of reality, right?
Right.
And so I think that's where the real crisis is that there's a generation of lost men who don't know that the answer to fix their problems lies within themselves. And there's all these snake oil salesmen like the Andrew Tates of the world. I'll say it. I'll fucking shout him out. Open
Right. Thank you.
as or whatever. I don't care. That go ahead and direct that anger towards women, towards minorities, towards gay people, towards whatever. And
Hmm.
it's like, no, it's like the problem's in yourself. And until you go ahead and look in that mirror and really delve deep and face that scary shit that's inside of you, you're going to continue to be lost. And
Right.
no of putting blame on other people or hating other people or that sort of thing, because I've been through it, right, in
Hmm.
my own ways, is just going to make you sicker at the end of the day.
I agree.
You know, what were you going to say about capitalism? And then we'll
Oh, what I mean, there's so much to be said about capitalism.
yeah,
Um,
I
I
think what, like, going from my perspective on that is that for so many generations, we've had the ideal of a successful man being someone who has a car, who has a job, who has this, who has that, has a house. But now in the modern day, none of those mean anything. Because if you have a house, you're just going to be in debt. If you have a car, you're going to be in debt. If you have like, or, anything, right? None of
Mhm.
it's real anymore. There's no,
Yeah.
and we put so much value in it, especially boomers. They're the ones really feeling it now because they kind of screwed up the system and they put so much into material, and they lost sense of integrity, of community, right?
Mhm.
We're supposed to be a government for the people, by the people. That's community. That's helping other people. But it turned into this, succeed at all costs, grind at all costs, fuck your family, work until midnight because that's how you succeed, right?
Yeah.
Instead of establishing real connections and community and helping other people, which I believe is the real purpose of life. It's not to achieve material. I'm taking this from a very Buddhist perspective. You can take it
Yeah.
from your radical communist. But I think
Down with
they have a
capitalism.
place where they can meet, right? They have like
Yeah.
a real place that they can meet because it
Listen,
is
for
about helping
me,
community.
for me, I don't know what the answer is. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I don't know what other system would work better.
Mm.
What I do know is that the current one we have is not working.
Not at all.
So we got to do something else.
I
Because
agree.
going back to what you were saying of like, yeah, with capitalism, it's like you work until you die and
Mm-hmm.
then, you'll achieve something. But what
For
what
what?
they fail to
For who are you achieving that for?
for who
Because
are you achieving that
worst,
for? But
I used
also,
to
but also,
right? And I
yes,
worked 8 years busting my ass. And then during COVID, they just cut out my 401k and they
yeah,
cut out all this stuff. And they said, well, the CEO is not taking his salary. And I was like, bitch, the CEO gets 90% of his money from stock options, not his shitty ass little salary. Like, go fuck yourself.
well,
Um,
and so that's what I was going to say is that like
That's who
it's
you're
working.
busting ass for. Someone who doesn't care. If you die, the next day they'll have a job request on Indeed for your position. The next
Yes.
day.
I'm
They'll
sad that we're talking about this at the end. I should have brought this up way sooner because everyone, but I'm
we
sure
got
by the
time.
time
We
people
got
reach
time.
here, they're exhausted and they're not listening anymore. But yeah, like with capitalism though, like that's what I was going to say is that you are taught and trained to and brainwashed to like work hard and then you'll achieve something, but they don't tell you that that's a lie because how many people do that every day? They have 2, 3 jobs and they still have nothing because there's so much hoarding of resources and finances and all of this stuff, and it's like you literally are doing it for almost nothing. But
For a
so I
billion.
think though with capitalism and the dating or the dating world, I think that yes, like, you know, I think there was a boy man person sorry
Mhm.
there was a man on one of your panels, I believe, who was talking about how he doesn't feel comfortable with dating or whatever because he's like, I can't provide to women with what women want, and like financially. And I think that that is not the fault of women necessarily. I think a
No,
big
I don't
part of
think
that is
that.
capitalism.
Yeah.
And I also though piggybacking off of that just a little bit, I'm not going to go too deep. I
Mhm.
think that what people also fail to realize is that, and this isn't to like make women sound like easy or, you know, whatever, but like from my experience and from my talking to women, women
Mhm.
really just want like the bare necessities typically at first. Like it's like I just want someone to love me. I want someone I can love, someone protecting, like, you know, just care, like be a decent human being. And I
Yeah.
find so often what happens is that whenever women are burned by a
Uh,
person or they witness another woman being burned by a man or a person,
mhm.
then the standards go up, and
Yeah.
then men are mad and they're like, well, your standards are too high and did all this stuff. And it's like, well, babe, it's because you fucked up or you messed up the first time. And now I got to like carry myself and have these high expectations because I don't want to be put in that situation again. And then also you have the situation of like how women don't necessarily need men to provide for them. So it's like, okay, what else you got?
Mhm. And
I can take care of my bills. Can you give me the love and affection and the emotional support that I'm asking for and looking for? And unfortunately, too many men have not been taught that at a young age of how to give more than just being a physical provider. There's also an emotional aspect there. There's, you know, there's so much more to it than just like, oh, I'm keeping a roof over your head and the bills are paid. Like there's so much more.
one
And I
thing
think
that one of my guests, Denise, said, and it was brilliant, and because it was, from her, just from her heart, you know what I'm saying? And it was, she was like, we were talking about this, all these broken men coming into society, and she's like, I feel for them. I
mhm,
like it is like a crisis. It is tough. Like there's a lot of broken men like coming in, but from my perspective is like I don't want money, I don't want this, I don't want that. All I want is peace.
yeah,
I'm saying like a man that can offer me peace, and a broken man can't offer that, right?
yeah,
A man who is in emotional turmoil within, that shows on the outside.
mhm,
And in the end, it's like, yeah, you see it on the apps that they want money, they want 6'3", they want, this perfect looks, whatever. But I think you're right. Deep down, most women, they just want peace. They just want
mhm,
someone that they can find that gives them peace.
right.
And a broken men can't do that. And there's so many broken men. And
And I think capitalism again is like such a big advocate or fosters that thinking of like, no, you have to have all of this stuff. And I was talking to a friend of mine who he pointed out capital, like when I asked him, you know, what's the issue with dating, etc., and he mentioned capitalism. But from his perspective, he feels with capitalism, you know, we're all born and taught that if you work hard, you will achieve something, you will attain something, and all of that. And so what happens a lot is that there's this like idea within people and dating where it's like we look at people sometimes as property, and
mm,
it's like I own you because I worked hard for you.
yeah,
And or say you did work really hard and you don't get the guy or you don't get the girl, and then you're upset and you're like, but I did everything I was supposed to do, why don't I have you? Da, da, da. And it's like there's so much of this like brainwashing again because of capitalism of like ownership and like this is mine and I deserve this and etc. And I think that's like a that's an interesting perspective to
I think
me.
I think another keep going on with this is, and it goes back to the entertainment industry. And I was talking to my therapist about this, is that there in culture, in TV and movies and stuff like that, there's this image that men have to chase for the prize, right?
Hmm.
Women are the prize, and it's a capitalistic thought, right?
Yeah.
Women are the prize, And if they reject you, you keep fighting for them until you get them. Because if you work hard enough, you will get them. And that is the most
Yes.
dumbheaded thinking there is. And I
Yes.
wish I knew that earlier in life, because it would save myself a lot of heartbreak and heartache, right? Chasing
Yeah.
unrequited love. Um, but
Rejection's hard, man.
but in reality,
Rejection's hard.
but in reality, if like this is my advice to men, if you love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
someone people are only going to love you so much as you love yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you shouldn't be chasing, you should be magnetizing. And
Right.
it shouldn't be a thing where you have other people chase you or whatever. It should be a magnetic effect where you come together. And if you don't find that, and if you're chasing and the other person's going that way, you need to let them go. You know?
Amen.
And movies and TV like teach this chasing as romantic, like as romance,
Mm-hmm.
as romantic, as heroic, when
Mm-hmm.
it's really self-destructive. And I think it's had a very like self-destructive effect on
Yes, Pastor Jack Star. You preaching.
but it goes
Preaching.
a lot with capitalism because, like
Yeah.
you said, it's like pushing hard, working for that goal. Like,
Right.
like if I'll break her eventually, she'll
Yeah.
and she'll be the love of my life. And even if you do break her eventually and you get with her, she's probably going to wander off because it was never meant to be. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? What do
Right.
you're both going to magnetize together.
Yeah. I have so much more to say, but I know like we are way past time. So
We're going on a
um
long episode.
I hope you invite me to part 2
I
or
will.
something.
I'll put you on a panel. But before we go, I do this with every guest. I tell them something I appreciate about you, and
Oh,
something that I really
Lord.
appreciate about you is how intelligent, and charismatic, and smart, and good-looking you are, but how humble and gentle you stay. You're always very humble and gentle. And one thing that I really appreciate, just having you as a client, is the dedication and hard work you put in every day, coming to the gym, coming back, and like I really see the results with you, and it's because of how much of a hardworking, good in person of integrity that you are. And so, yeah, like I had to have you on the show, and I do appreciate the hell out of you. I consider you a good friend and always will.
Thank you, Jack. I feel the same and appreciate
Oh,
you too. I mean, one of the things that a couple of the things you said was like, you wanted to combat the toxic masculinity out there, which I loved and appreciated. But you also, I remember when you were talking to me about what things to discuss or whatever, you were like, I don't want this to feel exploitive. And I
mm-hmm.
thought that was really beautiful because so many times, yeah, people are talking to others to exploit their stories, their traumas, their whatever. And you were just like, whatever you want to talk about, it's okay. And I'm just like, I don't care. I'll talk about anything. I don't care. And I just really appreciated that because that to me shows heart and understanding and yeah, I mean even I've been watching your videos and I I love that whenever someone has something to say to you that might not be what you were saying, like almost a little bit combative, you take it, you dissect it, you ingest it and you're like, yeah, okay, I get. And I don't know, you don't see that often. You don't see very many people, men, but people in general who are able to like listen and to just I don't know, try to change and make change. And I don't know, I appreciate that about you. And you're very kind, very patient. Love you so much. You're so
Oh,
great. Okay, blah 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 blah.
and like just going on with that, just real quick, is the reason why I do that is I'm not here on a platform to preach. I'm here on a platform to learn. Like this is
Mm,
about my learning, just as it is for other men to learn. And that's like the special thing about this podcast is I'm not giving answers. I'm allowing people to go on the journey with me to find
Mhm.
the answers by talking to people from all types, all
Yeah.
walks of life. And I think your perspective is so unique because of what you've been through, of what your life is. And I think if we have more of these conversations with men, we're going to find that. We're going to find like just, these like really interesting, salient points
Yeah.
that we couldn't understand because, I'm from like a white, cis, straight, area. I'm never going to understand what you've been through or what you've gone through. But you're also not going to understand a lot of the stuff that I've been through either. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of, men communicating and talking like this, honestly.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, love you, and I'm
I
definitely going to
appreciate
have you
and
on
love
the
you
podcast.
too.
And we'll wrap it up with that. Good job today. And with that, that is it for today's episode of The Other Side of Tough. I'm Jack Starr, reminding you that real strength is found on the other side. Catch you on the next time. Thank you, Quinton. Have a
Thank
good
you,
one, my brother.
Jack. You too.